Eric, who's here with us today, is currently the head of program management at Amazon Prime Air, which heads drone package deliveries. So at CSU, Eric was involved in ASCSU, serving in several roles, including student body president, which is pretty cool, and a member of the board of governors of the CSU system. After graduating from CSU, Eric joined the Coca-Cola Company in a rotational management training program, working to optimize and modernize the Coca-Cola supply chain. He then relocated to Seattle to join Amazon's corporate headquarters as chief of staff to the vice president of corporate applications, supporting technical teams developing core infrastructure software that fueled Amazon's growth and global expansion. So Eric was then asked to join the Prime Air team to lead program management, business operations, and serve as the chief of staff to the vice president to bring drones for package delivery to customers in 30 minutes or less, which is just such a cool program. And over the last 8 years, Eric has overseen the growth of the drone program so that they actually currently launch daily package deliveries to customers living within range of 2 operating locations in Texas and California. So cool. So outside of his role at Prime Air, Eric is the founder and global chair of Connect at Amazon, an internal social and professional networking organization that has grown to support around 130,000 Amazon employees from across 74 chapters globally. And in 2017, Eric was given an award from the founder of Amazon for launching and scaling this organization for employees. And outside of work, Eric is active in volunteering. So Eric, this is quite an accomplished career for someone who graduated from CSU not too long ago in 2012. So we'd love to hear a bit from you. Could you tell us in your own words what you do and what do your days look like?
Yeah. Well, thanks for having me. I really was excited when the College of Business reached out to want to hear about my story and talk to students. I always look for an opportunity to chat with students, whether it's when I visit Fort Collins, usually once to twice a year, or through virtual opportunities like this. So as Abby mentioned, Eric, I graduated in 2012. I brought my model drone with me, but I forgot to grab my CSU bobblehead that's at my desk just across the floor. It's survived like 10 or 11 years worth of moves across like a dozen or a couple dozen offices and apartments and all that stuff. So so as Abby mentioned, I currently work in Amazon corporate offices. I run program management in the Prime Air organization. Prime Air is developing drones for package delivery, 30 minutes or less to customer yards using autonomous vehicles like the drone you see right here. And then there's another one right there. My role has at Amazon really has matured. I think primarily because of the really awesome foundation that the CSU and the College of Business provided for me. And I think we're going to talk a little bit more about that here shortly, so I won't jump ahead on the questions. But my job as head of program management is supporting anything that the organization needs to be successful. Everything from defining a roadmap and thinking through what our long-term product strategy is, to making sure that we are investing the resources in the right areas to achieve our goals, and making sure that we have goals with specific measurements and targets and how we're trending against those, and reporting and executive reviews and annual budgeting and planning, and all the way to doing PR and marketing events or in collaboration with our PR and product marketing teams, recruiting activities, working with universities, employee engagements, and everything on the engineering side required to make sure that we deliver on our plan. It's a really beautiful role in that it's super broad. And it touches every single part of the organization, and it goes, not all that deep in anything in particular. It's much more of like a general athlete or a general management type of skill sets. And to answer your specific question, what do I do every day? Every day is different. I mean, my calendar typically is jam-packed full of meetings, but it's anything from things around the defining product strategy all the way through, putting out fires to seeing, 6 to 12 months down the road on what we need to make sure that we're investing in the right areas to make sure that we deliver on our plan and everything in between. But I tend to spend a lot of time on people-related initiatives and engagement related initiatives, and making sure that we're keeping the entire organization on track and our leadership focused in the right areas. And that's what I love about the job, is every day is different.
That's awesome. And then, as I was saying in your bio, you've done a lot of super cool things since leaving CSU. So could you tell us just how you ended up where you are now, like working at Prime Air?
Yeah.
What did your whole career path look like?
Yeah, totally. So I think in my bio, you mentioned that I was involved on campus. I was involved in a few different organizations. And I remember initially getting involved on campus. I worked at the Laurie Student Center, and that's how I actually first started realizing the breadth of opportunities that existed on a large campus like Colorado State, on ways you can get involved, whether it be through like a club or an organization, Greek life, or a job. And so I started in the Laurie Student Center, and then learned about ASCSU and went the student government route. And that was a really great opportunity to meet others and learn about what's happening across the entire CSU community in Fort Collins in Northern Colorado. And that really is what opened up my eyes towards looking at. It actually helped me figure out what I wanted to study. Early on at CSU, I was waffling between like electrical engineering, or going, doing a degree in theater, or going political communications, and I couldn't quite figure out what I was interested in. And then I think one day I stumbled upon one of the early business classes, and as well as an early supply chain class in the College of Business. And I remember sitting in that supply chain class and just thinking like, whoa, this is exactly how my brain thinks. And I mean, we've all had that moment where you're sitting somewhere, you're listening to a topic, you're working on a problem, and you're like, I got it. That's like the light bulb that goes off in my head. And so I knew that. And also there could have been a sign when I didn't do so well in Calc 3 twice. So that could have been the clear indication that engineering might not have been the direction to go for me. But then I knew that the business was the direction to go. And so I declared a major. The folks in the College of Business were awesome at helping me make sure I stayed on track and was progressing towards graduation. I did the student government thing. Like you mentioned, I ran for and was voted in a student body president my senior year. And throughout that time, as I was involved in student government, I had the opportunity to join a variety of like committees across campus, like ways to help decide and have a voice in the community that I lived in and that my peers lived in. And one of those committees ended up being, it sounds really boring, but looking back, it was like the thing. It was like the one involvement thing that helped me, get my first job out of college, which was I was on a committee that was reviewing the contract for the vending machine rights on campus, which sounds really, really dry. Why would I want to volunteer to do that as like a sophomore or junior or something? But it was pretty cool because it helped me understand how the university works and how like these large organizations process these like macro level, and we're talking like multi-million-dollar contracts. And I was the student voice on that committee, and it allowed me, of course, to meet the leaders from. We ended up awarding the contract to Coca-Cola, so it allowed me to meet local and regional leaders from the Coca-Cola company, and then at the time they ended up sending the then CEO of Coca-Cola out to Colorado State University to speak in the Laurie Student Center, and so I had the opportunity to like meet all their like actual corporate leaders at a mixer and lunch, and then that's what helped me get an interview in their management training program. And partially because of the awesome partnership that Colorado State was building or had with Coca-Cola, and they offered a ton of student jobs, and were really invested in making a great partnership with CSU, and then they offered me a role. I accepted that role, and then worked at Coca-Cola for just about 2 years, and frankly was bored because Coca-Cola is really, really good at what they're good at, and they've excelled at that for 120 years. And there wasn't a lot of, at least at the time, based on where the company was, there wasn't a lot of appetite for any major change. And so I knew that I was young, I was very eager, I was very hungry to take on more work. I really wanted to find somewhere where I could do the, quote unquote, like grind and really drive my career forward fast. And so I picked up working on a startup on the side. It was an entertainment management firm where I ran the business side of that company, where we did like theme park shows and concerts and Halloween activities at a few theme parks across the country. And it was a really good opportunity to learn about what it was like to work in a very, very small startup and grow that. And then ultimately, I realized I needed to change of scenery. I wanted to go to a very fast moving, fast thinking organization. So I looked at tech. That was in 2014, like really the peak of at least modern day tech industry's growth for these large organizations. So looking at the big tech names. And that was right when Amazon was growing really, really fast. And so ended up getting into an interview process with Amazon. Very grueling interview process if you've ever heard about interviewing with Amazon. But the culture couldn't have been a more perfect fit for the way that I think and what I was looking for. And I joined Amazon in 2014.
Great. Thank you. And going off of that, what do you think makes you a good fit at Amazon and at what you do? And how would a student know if they're a good fit for one of these big tech companies?
It's so hard. How do you know if you're going to be a good fit, whether it's a tech company or like, some small business, medium-sized business? You don't know. I think my like best piece of advice there would be just try. Like you got to try something, because you don't know if it's going to be a success, or you don't know if it's going to be a good match, or that it's not a good match or a good fit, or what about the culture is what you're looking for until you try it. And it's okay. I think it's okay that if you do a year somewhere and you realize that's not my thing, I think that's fine. I would encourage you to, consider not jumping around place to place too fast, because I think there's there is some negative connotations that come with that. But I think it's okay. I mean, I interview hundreds of people a year. We have this program at Amazon that we call the Bar Raiser program, which is it's like less than like 0.1% of all employees across Amazon, and we're nominated and then selected to be think of us as like the culture bar raisers, where we're responsible for keeping a very high bar of talent as we're going through the interview process. And there's a bar raiser on every single interview loop that occurs across Amazon, with exceptions of like fulfillment centers and stuff like that. And our job on these loops is we don't know anything about the role or the team or who they're going to work with, but our job is to hold a very high level of scrutiny against candidates. And we're like the veto voice on the group. And that if we think that the person should not be hired, like that's our job to speak up and do that. And through these interviews, I think I don't even look at, or if I do see that somebody has been job hopping, ask the question, like, what's the reason? Was it like a culture fit? Was it a job fit? Was it what did you learn from that? What did you learn you like or don't like? It's a very easy thing to explain. And so I encourage you, as you're in school right now, and as you're thinking about whatever your next step's going to be after school, whether that's more education or work, or corporate versus not, or a trade, I think you should just try it, and then you'll learn whether it's a fit or not. Because I do think you will have a moment where you're like, yeah, this is my superpower. I got this. I'm going to keep leaning into this, and you keep doing that, and then you slowly navigate.
Great. And having been a part of so many interviews, what is one thing that you would recommend students trying to get into a competitive field? What's one thing that they could do at CSU right now? Maybe something that you did, maybe something you didn't do, that would just help set themselves apart in the application process and the interview process.
Yeah, you're afforded this opportunity right now when you're on campus, and especially with like such an awesome team that CSU has, in the College of Business specifically, but also across campus. I think you're afforded this like opportunity to leverage all of these resources. Like I remember going, I think it was before I got the job at the Student Center, and I think I needed somebody to look at my resume. And so I went to like the resume review, and I thought that I didn't take advantage of that enough, because if you get a really like high quality resume early on, even like right before you graduate college, you can continue to leverage that exact same like foundation of a resume for a long time. And you just keep adding to it, and you learn the right way to frame a resume and a cover letter. And those are skills that you're going to use those for decades. I haven't written a resume in, I guess, 8 or 9 years now. Like, I don't know how to write a resume. But that same thing with interview practice, like interviewing well and being able to succinctly and using data talk about your impact on a topic or a project or a proposal, I think it's hard and it's not natural. And I would encourage you to spend some time figuring out how that works for you and what your methodology is there. And then writing. And this isn't the case for every company. In fact, there's a lot of companies that you'll never write ever. But at least the world that I live in is I write every day. And I'm writing like 1-pagers, I'm writing 6-pagers, I'm writing strategy documents, I'm writing, a customer analysis. Like the writing well and writing confidently and writing quickly is a skill that will help you, whether it's a work-related thing or a personal related thing, whether it's like a blog or a journal, and just getting your thoughts on paper, I think is super important. So don't discount when, Bill Schuster and whoever, his peers are all asking you to like write the document or write the term paper or write a report. It's for a reason, and that skill is something that will stick with you forever. So build the foundation now. Great.
So students on the call hearing that know that Business 300, business communication, is a very valuable class. So take advantage of that while you're in there. And then I have one more question before I want to open it up for students.
Sure.
If they have questions. If we could wave a magic wand and make you a student again, what is one thing you'd do the same, and what's one thing that you would do different?
Ooh, good question. God, I loved my time at CSU. I would do this if I could. Also, I talk about Fort Collins like so fondly whenever it comes up in conversation, just how much like living right on like College and Laurel my senior year, and then riding my bike down to the real New Belgium, not the New Belgium of today. And you walk in and they hand you just like, 5 tasting tokens. Those are the good old days. What would I do the same? The same would be, I would be as involved as I was. I think involvement is key to, your ability to understand how like this complex like societal ecosystem works, and how you can be a productive member of your community, whatever community that is. It doesn't have to be, you know what I mean. It can be any community that you exist in. I think understanding ways that you can get involved helps build these ties that support like, a strong X, Y, and Z element of your life. And so I'm happy that I was heavily involved in student groups and work and in the College of Business. What I would do different is I wish I spent more time on my social life, which is usually, you might hear the opposite for most people who graduated. Because I was so heavily involved in like committees and student government, I was very focused on the student government thing, that it came at a discount of like the social side of things. And so then just like, if you or the rest of us do this in our post-collegiate adult life, is you end up, being friends with all of the people that you're working with, which is great, but there's also value to be said for having like the real college experience. So doing both is important, and finding the balance, I think, is right.
Great. That is such valuable insight. So thank you, Eric. Now I do want to open it up to students. So students, if you have any questions, please either just unmute yourself and ask, or if you want to pop them in the chat, I can read them out loud. And as we wait for those to come in, I'm actually going to put a video in the chat for you all, kind of explaining, if you want to watch this right after, just going over the actual drone program and what Prime Air does. Super cool. I watched it this morning and just gave me a better overview. And while we're waiting for questions, I have one more. Of course I do.
Let's do it.
Eric, utilizing drones for Amazon package delivery is super innovative. And it seems like you're kind of working on the cutting edge of what will likely become commonplace before we even know it. So I'm curious, with such a tech-driven industry, what do you find to be the most challenging part of your role? And then on the contrary, the most rewarding part of your role?
Yeah. This is one that I struggled with when I joined this program. I joined this program. I was one of the early members of the program. I joined 8 years ago last month. I think I was employee number 20 or something like that. I think the thing that has been most challenging is not having an aerospace or an engineering background. And so for a while, like several years, I always felt like I didn't know how to engage or interact or ask the right question, or how to drive teams of engineers to achieve something, because I didn't have the context of like, why does this thing actually stay in the air, or how does the electrical system work, or how does the sensor work? Doesn't matter. And I think that was like the biggest learning is, if you don't know, you need to lean into and learn about how you can confidently and concisely ask the question, and like ask it in a way where somebody will teach you and someone will help you understand it. Because I think people generally are really good in their craft if they're in a role like, I guess, like this, or really anything. And if you ask them the question, tell me about how it works, or tell me, what you're designing and why you're doing it, they will, in very simple terms that you can understand, explain it. And then for the next time, okay, I know exactly why this thing stays in the air. And maybe I don't know all of this, the specific terms, scientific terms as to why, but I know I can explain why it stays in the air. And then the next time you say, well, how does it go faster? Or how does it turn? And then you just build on these building blocks. And so I think that the biggest learning that I had, Abby, is that once I figured out that my program management methodology, or my like leadership style, is irrespective of the contents, that was a light bulb for me. That it's and I'd encourage you to think about like whatever your discipline is, or whatever your process is, hone the process, hone the mechanism, hone the way you approach a problem in your analytical thinking, rather than try to be an expert at everything. And especially in something like a business degree or a management degree, you aren't a subject matter expert in like one thing, but you fill this void of being like the general manager that can solve basically anything. I think I would lean into figuring out your process and what works for you.
Definitely. And then it looks like we have one question in the chat from Kirsten. Do you still think that management and supply chain were the best academic directions for you?
Yeah, thanks for your question, Kirsten. Yeah, I do. I mean, it's clearly the way my brain thinks. Would I have changed it? I don't think I would have. I think I would have wish I would have supplemented it. So as in, I wish that I would have gone and either done like a science-based second degree, or a science master's degree, or something similar to that. But no, I don't regret it whatsoever, and I think it was absolutely right for my the way that I think. But it's because I lucked into figuring out the way that I think in my college experience, and that helped me, reaffirm my decision.
And another question from the chat from Morgan: what trends are you seeing related to your field that shape the focus of your work?
I'm going to focus the answer on this one. Thanks, Morgan, for the question. Focus the answer on this one for related to people, which is a big chunk of the work that I do, is just around like people strategy and people engagement and making sure we're investing in the right areas for people. I think there's this trend. If we would have had this chat 3 months ago, I would have said that I think like this concept of remote work is probably going to stick around for a while. And I'm not convinced of that any longer. And so that really has changed in the last couple of months. And it's like this weird time of like how you give people flexibility while also continuing to build and maintain culture. And I think that is difficult for employers to try to straddle the line on. And there's some that are taking a harder stance approach on it, and one way or the other. And it'll be interesting to see how that plays out. I think from a trend standpoint, I suspect that flexibility and like work arrangements and like work location will be the norm in the future. It won't be sort of the one direction or one end of the spectrum or the other, as it seems like some employers are going.
Great, thank you. And then one from Sean. What does it take to get from a large but not so famous school to one of the most innovative / competitive / internationally recognized companies in the world?
Yeah, good question, Sean. I think I'll go back to like I interview hundreds of candidates a year comment. I don't think I ever look at what school they came from. I look at, do they have a degree? What have they done since then? What is their achievements that they've had? And tell me like why you are a good fit for this role, or like what you're bringing to add value to this organization. And I let the data drive the answer there. So now I'm usually not the one that is, sourcing the candidates at the very top of the funnel for roles. I'm usually the one that sees it at the very end of the funnel after somebody is like, already invited to an on-site interview, but it doesn't really matter at that point. I actually really don't care about your GPA. I don't care about what classes you took. I care about your degree, because your degree typically will tell whether you like are an expert in this engineering field or that, but typically experience is the thing that matters. And so I would think about how after you graduate, how you get some good experience helps round out your skill set.
Definitely. I think that's great advice. Any other questions? All right, seeing none. Eric, I just want to thank you so much for joining us today.
Yeah, absolutely.
We really do appreciate you taking the time to chat with us. And students, just as a reminder, this will be posted in Handshake and on YouTube. So if you want to go back and listen to anything again, you can find it there along with all of our other Tuesday talks. And also, if you're interested in Eric's career path and want to chat about some steps that you can take to get somewhere similar, come to the Career Management Center and chat with us. We are here to support you and to help you find opportunities that align with your goals and interests, just like Eric was able to find an opportunity that seems to perfectly align with his interests. And with that being said, thank you so much again, Eric, for joining us. And I hope you all
thank you.
A good rest of your Tuesday.
Yeah, thanks, you too. If anybody ever wants to talk, Amazon or more about my background, find me on LinkedIn. Happy to connect.
That's great. Yes, connecting on LinkedIn is wonderful.